Long time no see, everybody. I am Mongoose. You are awesome, and today on Your Goose is Cooked, we'll be making naan tacos. Pretty much just a regular ass taco, but we're going to church that shit up by using an Indian flatbread instead of a tortilla, and adding a pumpkin seed salsa verde, both of which I'll be teaching you how to make from scratch. The original plan was to pair this bad boy with Dragon's Milk, a bourbon barrel aged milk stout that happens to be my favorite beer at the moment. However, my boss, being the total badass that he is, brought me a bottle of Bacardi Reserve 8 rum from Puerto Rico. I believe this particular Bacardi can only be purchased in Puerto Rico. So, change your plans, we're gonna do both. Let's start by making the naan, which is an Indian flatbread. You'll need a package of active dry yeast, about 2.4 ounces. You can usually find this at the top shelf of the baking aisle in your grocery store. Need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, about a tablespoon of sugar, a couple good pinches of salt, quarter cup of olive oil, 1 egg. I'm gonna mix all that in. Let's beat this egg up a little bit. Don't really need to do this, but I don't know, I'm thorough like that. And then the oddball of this recipe is a 1/3 cup of plain yogurt. Make sure this is plain yogurt. Plain yogurt. You don't want strawberry banana flavored naan. Or maybe you do, I don't know. And finally, you need a 1/2 cup of warm water. If you stick your hand under the tap and it hurts, like you stick it in and it's like, oh fuck, that's hot. That's way too hot. You just want, but just before that, that's the sweet spot. The water needs to be nice and warm without being scorching hot to provide a nice environment for the yeast to grow and live in. So you pour your yeast right in there. We're using a pretty giant bowl here, but that's because we're going to mix everything in this bowl. So right now we're just going to mix all the wet ingredients. Mix up this yeast into the water. Get it wake up. Time to wake up, little yeasts. Time to wake up. This is an actual living organism here, which sounds gross, but oh well. And the sugar, which is not to flavor anything, but to provide food for the yeast. So we're going to mix that up and let it set for just a little bit, and you're going to see that it gets a little frothy. So let's time lapse. So after about 3 minutes, you can see bubbles forming on top of the yeast. That means they're up, they're eating, and they're producing gases, which is what makes the bread rise. So let's add in our egg, our 1/4 cup of olive oil. Doesn't have to be extra virgin olive oil, it can just be fucking olive oil. I don't know what the section is with extra virgin olive oil. Anyway, let's put this yogurt in here. This is going to make it nice and chewy. This is what the yogurt is kind of what gives naan its texture. It's like a kind of a thick, chewy bread. That's what makes it so fucking great for a taco shell. We've got it all mixed up now. We're going to add in a little bit of flour, about a cup. So we're going to just keep adding this in until we can no longer mix it with a spoon. So try and mix it in as best as you possibly can. You want it to be as fully incorporated as possible, so you don't have just pockets of like little bubbles of dry yeast in your bread. That's not dry yeast, dry flour in your bread. That's no bueno, man. You're not going to like that. So get it mixed as thoroughly as possible. This is why people make a mound of flour on the table and then add the wet ingredients to the flour, because that forces you to fully incorporate the dry into the wet ingredients. Otherwise, you'll have a big fucking mess on your hands. I'm pretty impatient and I never do this exactly right, which is why I use a bowl. So we're going to add a little bit more flour in now that it's mixed in really well. And we'll just keep doing this until we can no longer mix it up with the fork. And I almost forgot about the salt. Just dump the salt in there anywhere. Just keep mixing it up till you have a nice soft dough in your hands. This may take a while, but you know, have some patience. Let's speed this up a bit. Notice I didn't use all of the flour. If you use all 3 cups at once, your dough is going to be far too stiff. The rest of the flour you can use to dust your work surface and begin kneading the dough. As you're kneading, add small amounts of flour if the dough starts to get sticky. Continue to knead the dough for about 5 minutes, which should be perfect for answering a question submitted to me on one of my Talk to Me Goose episodes. This question came from Superboy Prime, and the question is, are there any really good beers you'd recommend? I need to keep a few in mind for when I'm legal, semicolon right bracket, even though all I hear about beer is that it tastes like piss. Well, I'm about to give you more than you bargained for, Superboy Prime. Here's the thing. I'm not going to tell you to drink responsibly and all that shit because a long time ago in a galaxy far away, I was also 18 and I sure as fuck didn't drink responsibly. Instead, I'm going to tell you how your love of beer is going to come about. Whoever told you that beer tastes like piss is pretty much correct. I think most of us, when we first drink a beer, immediately wonder, why the hell does anyone put this in their mouth? There are, of course, some that enjoy beer from the first sip, but I certainly wasn't one of those people. In fact, I'm pretty sure I chased my first beer with a Coke. So how is it that I went from hating the taste of beer to loving it? Well, here's what's going to happen. You're not going to like beer, but you're still going to get all fucked up and stupid with your friends, so you're going to find some kind of liquor you enjoy. For me, it was vodka. I was the vodka guy. I got to where I could drink that shit like water. However, you'll get to a point where you're at a party, you're still going strong, but you're out of vodka. But there's going to be a cooler full of beer in the corner. You're going to drink a few of those beers because you'll be too drunk to give two shits about the taste. This will happen a few times until one magical day, you'll show up at the party, you'll look at that bottle of vodka, then over at that cooler full of beer, and bam, you're going to go for that beer and never look back. So to answer your question of what beer you should try, whatever the fuck is in that cooler, my friend. However, I do caution you, liquor before beer, never fear. Beer before liquor, sicker quicker. You'll find out what that means the hard way. 5 minutes have passed and we have a nice soft dough in our hands. Get yourself a big bowl and a stick of butter. Grease up the sides of the bowl. We're going to let the dough sit for about an hour and a half to let it rise. The dough should double in size. The butter is there to prevent the dough from sticking to the sides. I'm going to place these 5 peppercorns on the dough so we can see how much they spread out as the dough rises. Cover the bowl with a moist towel of some sort and leave it in a warm place. Well, that wasn't nearly as impressive as I thought it would be. Oh well, the dough has doubled, so we're going to put it back in its place and punch it down. Let's bring out our cast iron skillet and heat it as high as we possibly can. Allow plenty of time for the entire pan to heat all the way through. Pinch off a pool ball sized piece of the dough and begin rolling it flat. Try to make it as round as you can. Once you have it to the proper size you want, toss it into the skillet. No need to grease the skillet as long as you have a well-seasoned cast iron or one of those inferior non-stick pans. Let the dough cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. You want the bottom to be golden brown and the top to start bubbling up. You know you've done well when the naan bubbles up in the pan. When the bottom is cooked through, flip it and cook it for another 3 minutes or until it's golden brown. Take note that naan is a lot like pancakes. The first one is never as good as those that follow. Once your naan is cooked through, take some melted butter. I just zap this in the microwave and brush it on the bubbly side. Sprinkle with whatever herbs you wish. I, of course, am using marjoram. And our naan is done. Let's move on to the pumpkin seed salsa. To make this pumpkin seed salsa verde, you're going to need 4 tomatillos. They look kind of like tomatoes, but they're small and green and they have like a leafy husk around them. They are related to tomatoes, but they taste more differenter. Be sure to remove the husks before you cook them. 1 lime. However much garlic you want, I'm using 4 cloves. Some fresh or dried cilantro. I'm not a huge fan of this stuff, so I'm only using a couple sprigs. 1 jalapeno with the seeds and ribs left in. The jalapeno is entirely dependent on you, however, it's however much heat you want. If you want a milder sauce, you can either remove the seeds from the jalapeno or use like half a poblano, or no chilies at all if you don't want any heat. If you want to go hotter, a habanero or 2 would go absolutely great in this. I personally think the habaneros would be better. However, as much as I like hot food going in, it's the back end of the equation that I'm worried about. So go ahead and throw a Carolina Reaper or a ghost pepper or whatever in here if you want to. Just don't come crying to me when your asshole turns into the Eye of Sauron. Oh, and I almost forgot the most important ingredient here. Good thing I can edit. These are pepitas, roasted, salted, and shelled pumpkin seeds. If you can't find these in your local grocery store, you can just toast up some shelled sunflower seeds and use those. We're going to pan roast the tomatillos, jalapeno, and the garlic. Be sure to remove the papery skin from the garlic before roasting. You can also boil all the ingredients, but why the fuck would you do that when you can get a nice roasty toasty flavor in your salsa? I'm going to set my oven to broil and set it to heat around 450. Cook everything until it gets brown on the top side, then flip it over and cook it a bit longer. The times vary according to the ingredient. For example, the garlic will roast much faster than the tomatillos. Be sure to check often and remove items as they finish. Once everything is done, put all the roasted ingredients in a blender. If you don't have a blender, just wait till everything cools down a bit and stuff it all in your mouth and chew it up like a fucking bird. Cut your lime in half and squeeze the juice of 1/2 into the blender. Toss in the cilantro and about a tablespoon of the pepitas and give it a buzz. Sample this as you blend and add more pepitas, salt, and pepper to taste. Just try not to eat the entire concoction like it's a frickin' soup because it is amazingly good. Pour this into a container for later, and you're good. Time to build some tacos. I'm going to be using sirloin for my tacos. You can use whatever cut of beef you want. Flank steak would do well here, or you can use pretty much whatever protein you want. Chicken, pork, shrimp, it's all up to you. I'm only using beef because it's kind of rare that you get to eat beef with naan, so take the opportunity while you can. I'm going to assume we're all cooking beef here and give instructions accordingly. Slice the meat up into bite-sized chunks or strips. Get your skillet back up to its highest possible temperature. There is no need, if you have the skillet hot enough, to add any oil to the pan or to the meat. Toss it in dry. If you use any oil at all, you're going to be spending the rest of the night fanning your smoke detector. The goal here is to get a nice char on the outside of the meat while keeping the inside pink. Move the meat around so it cooks evenly. If you don't have some cheapo metal tongs like this, I highly suggest you get some. Once it's done to your liking, move the meat aside and let it rest. Now let's assemble the taco. Lay the buttered and herb side of the naan down so that it's the first thing that hits your taste buds when you take a bite. Layer on whatever taco toppings you want. I've got some lettuce, the beef, some cherry tomatoes, the salsa, and some queso fresco. And it's finally time to dig in. Let's set out a tumbler with a nice big hunk of ice in it for the rum. Fold this puppy up and take a big ass bite. It is, in fact, delicious. Now let's try our dragon's milk with it. And it's an okay match. I was hoping the smoothness of the milk stout would balance out the spice while the bitterness and a hit of bourbon would stand up to the flavors of the taco, but I think this beer is a bit much for this meal. Would probably be better served with a full-on steak, I think. I do love me some dragon's milk though. Love that beer. Now the rum. Let's pour some over the ice and give it a try. Holy shit, that is good. Now I got two different fires burning in my belly. The rum actually seems to match up a little better. Damn, this is some good rum. Thanks, boss! And that's it for your Gooses Cooked. I hope you found the show both entertaining and informative. If you did, do me a favor and hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more. I'll be doing a spinach and chicken ravioli next week, and I have an ingenious method of forming the ravioli that you have got to see to believe. Clickbait! For my longtime subscribers, as much as I said my channel would not become a cooking channel, I'm afraid that gaming content is going to go on hold. After the fall of Paragon, I just can't find a game that I'm passionate enough about to create content for. I just kind of listlessly play games half-assed and never get good at them, and never really enjoy them as much as I did Paragon. So for a while at least, it's going to be mainly cooking. As always, this is Mongoose saying that if you're out there and you're hungry, you can go eat a dick. Mangoose!